Way there to get there by finding another site and showing to him, saying, well, where is it? So, well, I'm not going to tell you unless you show me this site. So there it was in 1978 at the end of the day at dusk, and he was told not to tell a soul, because if he did, he would lose his job. So he did. He looked at it and there was nothing. It was full to the brim with rubbish, with rocks, trees, everything had fallen in there. And it took 2 days, 6 men to clear the whole thing out, and then they discovered this. That was in 1978. But according to Alan Dash, 3 years before, there was a deranged Czech wandering through there with a chisel, and there was nothing there. David said there was 20 to 30 years of rubbish that had fallen in there. Arnie Bev Spears, who was the last full initiated Darkinjung elder, told me that the original people made those glyphs. So I don't care whether someone claims some students from Sydney Uni in 1960 spent 3 weeks camping in the bush doing this. For nothing. There's no site, there's no semester, there's no topic. There's nothing called Egyptian hieroglyphs in Sydney Uni. So why would they do it for 3 weeks? Try and get students to do anything for nothing for 3 weeks. You've got no chance. It wouldn't happen. And if you're not going to get a mark for it, why would you bother turning up? And of course the third one is a World War I vet put it up as a monument to his friends. He did put a monument up. It was a statue in Palm Beach, wasn't it? Yeah. There was no writing. And more to the point, this is Proto-Egyptian. We only discovered how to interpret that writing in about 2003. This deranged Czech, or the grieving World War I vet, was writing a script that no one in the world even recognised then, and doing it properly. They're the stories, and they're not true. So let's go through now and we'll look at this properly. Now, when we do this, ladies and gentlemen, when we go on to site, we don't go on with our clipboard and walk in there. We go on there with our clipboard, but we also go on there with psychics. And we make sure we understand that all original sites are magic. We believe in clever fellas, we believe in that magic, and we believe in telepathy. We believe that when a bird comes and says you've done something, you'll be dobbed in by the bird, because that's the way things work for us. So if you don't look at the magic, and you don't look at the energy that these sites are put on, you're not doing archaeology. You're doing a 101, and you won't get anything worthwhile. So, as we start this site, we're going to do this back to front. I'm going to introduce you to the site and show you what goes around the site, because you can't look at one side. They join together, they mesh. So first of all, let's look at the site properly. That picture was taken between the two walls. I can assure you the gentleman we know quite well was not carrying a spear on his backpack when he went there. That was just a normal camera. All of these shots weren't doctored. These have been taken by 6 different people, and we've just put together what we've done when we've been there. That's at the site. Now remember this, if you're looking at the carry-on glyphs, do not look at that in isolation. You have to look at everything around there to get a picture story of this. Otherwise you get a segment. The next particular picture is about 300 metres away. And this is one of the rocks that marks out the entrance to that place. And the gentleman laid on top of it, and as you can see, he got a reaction. And it's quite funny, because the guy looks about 6 inches tall. He actually is, doesn't he? He's quite tall, but that got bigger. Okay, the next one again, please, Evan. But this is the grandmother tree, which is about 200 metres from the site. Now, it's a woman's site. And this women's and men's site, guys. It's not quite like you think it is. That site, anyone that goes there and puts their arms around it, because if we take people on country and they don't put their arms on that site, they don't come. They're not allowed to go.
Yeah, so it's an Angophora, I think they call it.
Yeah, it's an Angophora tree that grows on top of basically on top of rocks, and anyone that goes there will always get that reaction. It's nothing unusual. We have hundreds of pictures like that, but we just don't put them all up. And then we go a bit further, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, we do. We go to the healing table, which is about, I won't say how close it is because we're not supposed to give some of these sites away. It's pretty close, and it's only for women. Men, you do not lay in that. You will get sick and you may even die. It's not a site for you. And I want to show you a picture now of what happens to a woman that lays in it in 2 parts. There's the first one there. That was taken. The second one was taken about 4 seconds later. And every woman I've taken on that site, with the exception of a young girl who hadn't had periods, has had major visions. And we don't ask anymore because they come back smiling. We have to wait so damn long, don't we? Sometimes we've got to wait hours. They just forget we're there.
Some can't talk. And,
Oh, but by the way, I can tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. If you go to the carry-on glyphs and you stand between the two walls and you're a woman, you need a man. Oh yes. So we have some use in this. We're not completely dismissed. You need a man, or you will get
really sick.
Really sick.
We do more than open pickle jars.
Yeah, no, you will get sick. You need a man with you. You can stay there for about a minute. It's okay. After that, you will start to feel unwell. So yes, we have our point too. Mind you, that site is quite amazing. Okay, keep going please, Evan. And we'll go back to the glyphs again before we start this story. And that particular picture, it's a bit blurred. That was taken by someone again, and that's the shape that came out of the glyphs. So, ladies and gentlemen, why do we do that first? Because it's a spiritual site, it's a sacred site, but you need to see the sacredness of it before we look at the actual site. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to take you on a trip. When we first went and saw the carry-on list, we were taken there by the senior park ranger, John Gallagher, and he took us to the other sites first, because he, like most of the people there working at the time, knew the Egyptians had been through the whole of carry-on and more. Okay, so let's now go for a trip around the area. And we're going to start with this one. This is about 5 or 6 k's away, and this particular Ankh, which is what it is, it took us, what, all day?
Yeah, and people have gone back to look for it.
Can't find it. We waited for the sun to come out, we put water in there, we don't put chalk in there. You don't put chalk on the sides, you don't scratch it. And when it came out, it was the shape of an Ankh. Now what's really amazing is there's 3 footprints there, which is the footprints of an ibis. An Ankh is held by Thoth, and he has 2 incarnations. One is an ibis and one is a monkey or a baboon. So that's not a coincidence. That was the first site we saw. Then the next one we looked at, alongside it, is Duramulin. Now Duramulin is the son of Byami, and we know it's Duramulin because he has a club foot and one leg is longer than the other. Byami only has 1 leg. Now what we also notice there is when we get to the top, that's not original. We do 2 eyes. For humans, we don't do 1. That's in profile, and it's in profile as an ibis. And we're starting to see a link here. It's done by original people. It's definitely Duramulin, the son of Byami. But what's he got doing? What's this ibis head on a profile, which is quite amazing. Now, we'll go a little bit further. We'll just go a little bit away from that rock platform to another one. If there's any woman in this room who's been given initiation or is original, I would ask you now to put your eyes down, please, and don't look at this until we finish this particular caption, because on one occasion we did this with an original lady and it hurt her. And I'm never going to do that again. Okay, this is another one. This particular site, thank you, Evan, is Duramulin. But he's wearing that headgear there, which is very Egyptian, and you'll notice once again, it's side on, but we know the story. And this is the story of Duramulin and Ingalba. And what they were doing is, Duramulin is dead. He's been killed. And Ingalba is using her sacred shield there to bring him back to life again and bring him from the underworld. It sounds so similar to a story of Isis and Osiris. There's no difference. And you're going to find why there's no difference with the next glyph. That, right next to it, with the arms like this, and I've never seen one like this anywhere, is the Egyptian god of inheritance. There's the clue. The Egyptian story begins in Australia. They came here to learn their story and took it back. Yeah, they made the pyramids, but the spiritual part of it comes from here.
Oh, if anyone's still got their eyes shut, we can open it.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Eyes open, please. We're
Your eyes shut.
Okay, next one, please, Evan. Right. Now, we've done the Egyptian part of the story. And by the way, there is through the whole region. This is a very short one. We kept picking and choosing as we go. Now we're going to get a bit closer. We're going to get closer and closer to the glyphs. I'm going to take you on a trip around. This is an area found by Klaus Duna. He gave us the information. We went and found this particular wall. It's 3 sets of walls, and you'll notice one is 190, one is 189, and that's 190, the three of them. And on top of them is a sandstone shelf of about 150 ton. It's on a slope like this, and it would be the most dangerous site we've been to.
Yeah, I lost my toenail there.
That's
so
right,
if anyone
you did.
finds it, I'm looking for my toenail.
And it works like this, ladies and gentlemen. You get to a spot, you can't stand on that site, you'll fall down the cliff. You get to one spot and you've got to jump from about where I am to where this lady is. And if you land there, you can get onto it. If you miss it, you go down the hill and you'll never be found again. We did take Graham Hancock and Santha there.
Yep.
Santha ended up in hospital next day. I was nearly named as the person who killed Graham Hancock's wife. But ladies and gentlemen, you'll notice it's 4 sets all the way up, 4 walls, but what do I mean by walls? Well, let's have a look at them. These are the walls. There's water in there. You can't put a cigarette paper between these walls. The next picture I think is slightly better. You'll see it from a different angle. They've been stacked on top of one another, and there's the piece on top, and that slope is like that. How do you do that today? You couldn't do it today. Now I can tell you, if you go back to the first picture, which everyone won't do now, those 3 walls all lead to a gallery, don't they? There it is up there. And I went down there about 15 metres. The reason I was chosen, because I'm the thinnest. And when I got to 15 metres, I couldn't turn around. We knew it went for another 60 metres to an open area. And we've been on top of it, haven't we?
We have, and Klaus did warn us there's something around these sites called a booby trap.
And we found the booby trap.
Oh.
And then we left the site. We've never been back there. We found it.
Yeah, it was a bit scary.
Okay, so that's inside the tunnel. That's within 2 k's of the site we're going to. What we're giving you is an overview. Don't look at one site when you're doing original stuff. Look at the region first. Then work out what the sites within it mean, because they're all linked together. Next one, please, mate. Right, star markers. This place where we're talking about has more rock platform engravings than anywhere else on the planet. These are common. They are star markers. It takes about nearly 800 to 900 percussion hits to make one of those. And they are everywhere. The original people are obsessed by the stars. We're working on one site. Oh, you missed that one. Okay, and we did, there's about 800 star markers on one place. That's considered the largest star mark on the planet anywhere. We marked out about 380, 390, and we haven't still done it. We've spent 2 full days on it. Takes a long time, and we normally do it in the middle of summer when it's about 45 degrees.
Yeah, and funny enough, these people come and volunteer.
They volunteer, this is people. At the end of the day, everyone's laid out underneath the shade somewhere heaving, and they're wondering, why did we do this? They did it for nothing. Okay, next one please, Evan. Now that's a star mark map that's very important, and Sydney Uni did this and lost it. For 20 years, Sydney Uni said, we don't have the map. Yes, we did a map of that, but we can't find it. We did find it. What's important is, that is a star chart that's made 2500 BC, which is around about 4,600 years. And by the way, when you get to the story between the glyphs, it's about Khufu's sons, who were around 4,600 years ago. That star chart we've been to, it's directly above the glyphs. It's the closest star chart to the glyphs. It's only about 50 metres away. And it is exactly as the constellations were 4,600 years ago. Sydney Uni agreed to that. Now my question is, why would the original people go to the trouble to make a star map directly above the Gosford glyphs, unless it was commemorating something that happened on that day? That's what that is.
And keeping in mind, it's 300 percussion points per star marker.
And these ones are on side like this. I've walked around this one here. And what's really interesting is the larger the circle, the greater the intensity of the star. How do you do that? And more to the point, how do you manage to get every star in the right place? Just by looking up and saying, oh, I reckon it'd be there. Do you know how they do it? There are big, big round circles, and when the water gets in there at night, it shines on the stars and it's like a mirror. And you use that mirror, you measure the mirror and you take it away. Smart, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hey? That's the simple way to do it. Other people take photos. No, it's right in front of you. There's the hole. There's where you're doing it. Simple way to work. Next one, please, mate. Right. Now we're getting closer. Because the story always was the Deranged Check or the uni students did the glyphs there. There's not a story about them doing that one. They're wandering up and doing more. That's not in the story. That's not in their narrative, their fictional narrative. This was found very close to the glyphs. Now, what's really important, I don't know how well you can see it here, it's a bit blurred, but we'll get around it anyway, is there's a panel there, and two panels. One has got a scorpion, which I think will be the totem for the person who's died, is Nefertezeb. Nefertari, that's right. Now, down here, it talks about a coffin. It points a direction, and then there's a really important glyph, which you really can't see, which is that one there. It's got a stick running up there, and it means back shaft. And what it basically tells me is, and because there's a staff there, which can only be held by the pharaoh, the son of the pharaoh, that the son of the pharaoh, or the pharaoh, is buried in a back shaft. Now, if you take the direction pointer, it'll take you exactly to this spot. That is what's next to the carry-on glyphs. It's a shaft. Can you put the second one up too, please, Andy? That shaft runs up to 1/2 metre from the glyphs. And it was said in the glyphs that Nefertari died. And that other thing, which is about 200 metres away, which is written in a smaller script and a narrower cut, tells us to go to the back shaft. Now that back shaft, ladies and gentlemen, National Parks and Wildlife ummed and ahed about this for quite some time. They did say it was natural. Yeah, could be. I can fly too, but I can't. But they finally gave up and said it wasn't. Which I thank them for. They've now officially declared this was done by vandals. I don't know what you're laughing about. That's the official take. It's done by vandals.
They could be referring to the Germanic tribes.
I wasn't sure it was the Huns and the Vandals from Germany, or actually vandals around here, but if there are vandals around here, and they took all the fill away and didn't leave it anywhere, I would like to get them onto our farm. We've got some work to do, and they didn't tag it either. Wonderful. Oh, but the good news is, don't worry, National Parks and Wildlife have fixed it up, haven't they?
Yep.
They've completely filled the thing up to the rim. You can't get in. They filled it up with rocks. That was taken when we went there. I got there, and a week before it was filled up again. And when we went there the next time, mysteriously, somebody, or people, maybe two, took all the rocks out. They were miners. I don't know who it was. I've no idea. And when we got there, I was so shocked. I put on my best shocked look, and we went underneath and photographed it. Soon after, National Park Wildlife filled it up again because they said it could be dangerous.
There's actually two chambers, and one of the guys was down there with a rope, started tugging because that was the signal, pull me out, and he started screaming spiders.
That's right, it was in there. There's hundreds of spiders crawling over him. He wouldn't go back in. Coward. Okay, next one please, mate. We're getting closer. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is where it starts to get interesting. Arnie Mini Mace with Ray Johnson, when they first went there in the 1980s, picked up two objects. This is the first one. And she gave it to me when we met her. She found it in the 1980s and she said, this is for protection. And what it basically is, it's a piece of metal. And it's got a clasp here. You can see where the clasp was and it broke. Because her daughter wore it to a doof and it got banged and broken. You shouldn't take artefacts from Egypt to doofs as a general rule. Now, what's interesting is I had a scientist that was quite taken by this, and there's a chip on the side there and he's begging to analyse it. And I finally agreed to it because it did cut it a bit. And what he found out is this piece of metal here, there's nothing like it on this planet. Because it is 73% aluminium, 4% copper, and 24% unidentified metals that aren't on this planet. And that comes from the top laboratory in Australia that does metallurgy full time. They work within a university and pay the university $4 million a year in rent. So these guys are legit. This piece of work here, and by the way, all aluminium alloys have at least 85% aluminium. This is 72. And it's much harder than any aluminium you'll ever find. The question is, what the hell is this doing here? And it was found right next to where that shaft was. It's a piece of metal ornament. But there was a second thing she found, which is this. Looks like, doesn't it? There it is. Next one, please, Evan. It's actually, according to the experts, it's a femur. It's a human bone. Look what it's like. It's really light. I took this to Lismore to a fractured unit. I got an appointment, I got it in for free, and he looked at it and said, I do bones with people that are alive, I don't do these sort of bones. He said, but you could find out whether it's a human bone by doing a CAT scan. And I said to him, well, mate, I said, I can't pay for a CAT scan. That's going to cost a lot of money. He said, don't worry, I'll fix it up. So I went to the base hospital on Monday, 6 people with white overcoats, and they closed the whole unit down for us. And we did not 3, but 6 measurements of this, and they said the patient won't mind and it's not going to hurt them. 15 minutes in discussion, all they would tell me is it's a human bone, it's ancient. Is it Egyptian? I think it's Nefertari's bone. Okay, those 2 things were found next to it. Now the government knows that, so guess what? They've never looked at these 2 objects because they don't want to. This doesn't belong to this country or this planet. It wasn't made here. Next one, please, mate. Right, now we get to the glyphs. How am I going for time now?
You're good.
Okay, right. I've got to get off the ring. This is a panel of it. Now, basically, what you're going to find, all the circles in here are continuous. There's no lines like that when it's chiseled. And you'll find also, it runs across 3 walls. Now, the trick of this is, there are 3 different walls, and there are 2 different narratives on the wall. They're not the same. And that's really important. Can we go through and look at them, please, Evan? Okay, there is we went through and we got the manual that Ray Johnson wrote and worked with the experts in. And I've got handwritten notes from Dr. Abu Dia Ghazi saying that his work on Proto-Egyptian is correct. So I've got his manual, 4,100 glyphs, and I went through the whole of the wall and checked every one of those glyphs to get a match up. And the match up on the 2nd and 3rd wall is 42% Proto-Egyptian, the rest is not. Because it's not Proto-Egyptian, it's the first language on the planet. The Egyptians came here to learn their languages, and we've got this in another site too, at the Standing Stone site. So what we found there is that story, we've got an idea of the story from what we've worked out, which is half of it, and the other half, some of it's Dogon. Laird Scranton did some of that for us, and we've been piecing together a narrative. And I can tell you now, the most popular glyph there is what is called the crashing UFO. There's 8 of them. It's a story about creation. It's a story about making humans through cross-fertilisation, through genes. But we'll talk about that later because we don't have time today. Next one, please, mate. This is very important. There's the Egyptian narrative. There's the cartouche. Glyphs are facing the right way. Cartouche is a square. It's a shorter cut. It's not as deep. And that is a story, and that actually says Lord Nefer-Djedid, one of the 2 sons of Khufu. That is actually right. We've got that in the book there. And it tells us about 2 boats being stranded and one of the 2 brothers dying after travelling 2 seasons westward. And he got bitten by a snake twice. That's clumsy. And died. And we think this is his bone, that was the shaft, and it's been robbed. And that's what was left over. Next one, please, Evan. Right, these ones here are Syrinx. All the other 2 areas there, the other 2 panels, the other 2 walls are all done with Syrinx. And the Syrinx is supposed to be facing the wrong way. And that's why the experts said this was rubbish. 2001, Laird Scranton sent us a paper where there was pottery in Egypt where they had Syrinx with the glyphs facing that way. And it was supposed to be the secret wisdom of Thoth. That's why it was reversed. There are 8 of those properly reversed Syrinx on the 2 walls that aren't Egyptian. 2 stories. The Egyptian story up in the corner to tell us we came, the rest was already there. And Auntie Bev Spears told us for thousands of years the women would go to this site, the women, even though it's a men's site, and they would coat it with women's urine. That's why it stayed so fresh. That's our story. Next one, please, mate. And of course, finally, the last one is this. It didn't come out that long. The question you've got to ask is, when was it done? The same time as this one was done. And this one here, perfect circle again, it's a compass. There's north over there, south over there, bulldozer tracks through the middle of it because it's been destroyed by a bulldozer track. But what's interesting, ladies and gentlemen, is this. See where north is? It's 15 degrees wrong. It's not there now. So you want to date it, you go back to when North was 15 degrees east of where it is now, and that's the date that took place. But I can tell you that's pre-Cook. It's way before Cook. We're talking about stuff that took place in this particular country that goes back a long, long time.
And that technology we still can't do in the field.
The technology that we're seeing now, the technology we spoke about there, and the technology on the rocks we've got, what we've seen in here, the original people in this country at one stage were more technologically advanced than we are today. Believe it or not, that is the truth. And they gave it up. They threw the whole thing away. They threw away clothing, books, records, the whole thing, and went back to nature. And that's why the Egyptians came here. Not to learn how to build a pyramid, they knew that. But how to talk telepathically, to work telekinesis, to disappear in front of you, like Kano did to us. We've had an elder that disappeared literally in front of us, and Graham Hancock at the same time. Every person in the room can do this. That's what they learnt, and that's why others came to them. They were the mystics. They were the naked studies of the planet. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that's 33 degrees at Carrion. I want to take you to another spot of 33 degrees, which is a lot different.
Yes.
Can you move across that one, please, Evan? And it's to do with the ring. I got a phone call from Roz. We've got people who buy rocks for us and buy artefacts and then send it to us, and they've spent tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, easily.
Easy. Two of them have spent a lot of money. She rang me up one day and she said, I'm going to buy a ring. I said, what for? I've been drawn to this ring. I said, Roz, we do rocks, we do sites, we do skulls now. We've been doing all these skulls. One thing we don't do in Australia is metal rings or any type of metal objects because we don't get them. She said, no, I've been drawn to this one, I'm going to buy it. I said, well, okay, fine. And then she rings me up and said, the ring's told me to come down and you're going to have to write a story about it. I thought, fantastic, that's really what I'm looking forward to. So the ring comes down and it sits in this leather pouch here for 4 months. Never looked at it. Why? I looked at it, Kate, and said, what the hell am I going to write about a ring? I'm going to say, well, it's round and it's gold colour, and that's about all I can say. You had nothing more to say about it. Eventually, I decided after 4 months, this lady spent so much money on us, I've got to write an article. So I get the ring out, and lo and behold, she's done a metal analysis, and I looked at it. It's got 5 objects in there. It's got copper, zinc, lead, nickel, and iron. I thought, well, so what? Okay, fine. And I started writing it. And then I was in a bit of a problem because Evan wasn't there for a couple of days and I had to do something I've never done before. I went to the computer.
Yeah, it's just terrifying in itself, but yeah.
I can't use a mobile phone, for God's sake. I went to the computer and I thought, what am I going to do? Because that's what he does. He gives me articles and says, you're going to write about this. I said, oh, okay, I will. I thought, God, what am I going to do? So finally what I did was I punched up the 5 elements in the right order, from the most to the least. And I'll find out what happens. That's what you do, actually. Something like that.
Yeah.
So I thought, I want to roll here. I know how to do computers. Now I won't need him anymore.
Oh, I'm useless.
So I punch it up. Nothing. Not a thing in that order. Nothing. Some have got cadmium, some's got titanium, but I couldn't find it. But there was one entry. Wikipedia. Well, I thought, I'm not going there. So I kept looking and looking all day long, and I'd come back. Wikipedia was there. Wikipedia was there. I thought, oh God, I'm going to go there, because Wikipedia have made it. We are listed there. Not very. No, don't go near us. If you read Wikipedia, you should leave the room. Anyway, I looked in there, and lo and behold, I saw 2 words there, 2 names that gave me hope: Plato and Pliny the Elder. I was saying, I'm going to read this now, and lo and behold, Plato talks about something that has 5 elements exactly the same as ours, and it's called orichalcum. Well, I've never heard of that before. And then Pliny the Elder talks about the fact that by the 1st century BC, all of the orichalcum on the planet was gone. I thought, well, that's a bit different. So this is a couple of thousand years old. Oh, that gives it a bit of a tip. Might be worth a bit now. And then it goes on a bit more, because then they talk about orichalcum, they talk about the fact it was considered the equal of gold. And then we find out that it was used in one place only, Atlantis. And it was found basically in the temple of Poseidon and Cleito, who is his mortal wife. And the inner sanctum of the temple is lined solely in orichalcum and gold. And there's a pillar in the centre which has the wisdom of Atlas and Poseidon, and that's purely orichalcum. The Atlanteans considered it the equal of gold. But the interesting part is, no orichalcum's been found anywhere on this planet ever, except one place. There was a Roman wreck, a galleon, in the 6th century, and it was found in Sicily. And lo and behold, there is orichalcum. And it's in the same order as ours. But I'll get back to that a bit further because there's a couple of differences. So, we now have a ring. And I started to look at this ring, and I thought, well, it's come from Atlantis. That's the first absolute proof that a place exists, because we haven't done it, Les. We never touch it. So, well, then what happens, ladies and gentlemen, is I've got the ring now, and what am I going to do with it? What can I do? I found out that it could be from Atlantis. It's an Atlantean ring. So the next thing is I go back again. He's still not there because he's away for 2 days, and I punch up Atlantean rings. And I thought, well, this is going to be interesting because I wonder if there's any. And there was one. There was one. This bloke. His name's Howard Carter. You might have heard of him. He was actually the guy that went into Tutankhamun's tomb. Then we found out how this ring there goes with him. And what happened was, that particular ring was found in 1860 by a French archaeologist called Marquis de Grain. And he called it the ring from Atlantis. I was like, okay. And then what took place is, there it is there. He died. His grandchild married a guy, and this guy wrote a book about that ring. The ring, well, not that one, not his. He didn't get the original, he got the copy. And he said that this ring could repel all negative energy, be it invisible or invisible. He said this ring was purely good and could destroy all evil. Big claim. And of course, could you imagine writing that in the 1920s? Nobody took any notice of it, but one person did. Howard Carter. And Howard Carter went across to France and met them and said this ring is legitimate. And they made him a copy. And the story is, it's the shape and the markings on the ring that gives us its power. He put the ring on that night, which was a copy, not the original. And that night he had a dream. He had to go to Egypt and he would make a discovery there that would change the world. So that began his story to go to Egypt. When he went to Egypt, most people probably know what happened. There were about 17 people that walked in. About 6 months later, he's standing up, the rest are all dead. And there's all stories about how they died. That ring stayed on his finger until he died. And we know someone that's in the family, don't we, Evan? After that ring was passed on, it was passed on to an auntie, and it's still in that family. They regard it as incredibly sacred. Remember this, that's only the copy. It's not the original. The original's far more powerful. Now, moving on. Now we've got 2 rings. Now I've got a bit of an idea what's going on with this ring, and you'll find on it there are 9 patterns, 9 designs, and there's 2 that are repeated. So we've got this ring, and I'm trying to work it, okay, the other ring which is purely good, well, this in France. I don't know if they had to turn it on, I don't think they do. This one we've got now has got 2 symbols on it. The symbols we could recognise. See that one now? It's a bit hard to see, but you can see if you can see the ring properly. We found what that was. If you've ever seen a picture of Atlas holding the world like this with the world on his shoulders, underneath there's a motif that goes all the way around. It is exactly the same one. The Berbers follow Atlas and they use that symbol to represent him. Atlas is the son of Poseidon and Cleito from Atlantis. So we're thinking, is that Atlas? Then the second symbol there, which is a circle, you probably can't see it that well there. It's a circle and it's got a line that goes up and one that goes across on both sides. And I went back to Plato, and Plato said that Atlantis was made of 5 rings of earth and water. This has 5 rings. And it's got a straight line and a straight line. Well, those 5 rings were transgressed traversed by two roads that went across vertically and horizontally. So what we've got here is vertical and horizontal on each one of those, and we've got 5 rings, the 5 rings of Atlantis, and the other one represents Atlas. That's why we think the ring has got something to do with Atlantis, because the motifs belong there. The chemical construction is exactly the same. It's exactly the same. But there's something interesting about that. The orichalcum was found in the galleons. I've just got to check on this one myself, very few times I look at this, that's right. All of the copper was above 75%. Ours is 73. All the zinc they found was below 20%. Ours is 25. And their 3 trace elements, which is iron, nickel and lead, was 5%. Ours is 0.5. Yes, the Romans were using the last orichalcum mine in the 6th century, but it wasn't the same mine that this one came from. It was a different mine. And the Romans may have been using the one mine that wasn't destroyed when Atlantis was wiped out. This come from earlier on, and they just had ingots. That's all they had. They didn't have it made as a ring. So, there is the breakdown of it. 74% there, 25%, and the 3 smaller ones are all way lower. I look upon that something like homeopathy, where you put 3 drops of things into the main element and it creates something. Now the big question, ladies and gentlemen, is the ring magic? Because that's the claim. And I remember when I got the ring, the first time, I actually said to the ring, if you're magic, do it tonight. Put on a show. I'm not going to put myself out here and say the damn thing's magic unless it does something for me that night. And I gave it an ultimatum. I basically said, if I'm going to put my name up and say this is magic, then do it. So that night I went to bed. I have a necklace that I put it on. I don't put it on my finger that often. I have had it on. Laid down, and as soon as I laid down, it pulsed through the whole of my body. And we could feel it. It was running up through my head every 5 seconds, and it went on for about 20 minutes. Now after 20 minutes I realised it was going to go on all night long. I never sleep. So I took it off my chest and put it down there, and I told the ring, don't have to do any more. I'm comfortable now. I've got enough. So ladies and gentlemen, let's take this forward a bit. Here we have the ring. Then lo and behold, just like out of a scene from Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, it's stolen from me. It's literally stolen from me. And Evan knows the full story. The person who stole it put up statements saying that she was going to kill me, that I would kill him to get the ring back. All sorts of stuff was put up. It was crazy. In fact, when it was taken off me, one woman said, if I sent this to James Cameron, who wants to do a movie about Atlantis, or even Peter Jackson, they wouldn't believe the ring could do what it did. It actually, this ring, here's the trick with this ring. We found this out later. It's tainted. It's good and it's evil. There is a mark on that ring that was put in later. And we're told it was done by Atlas. And he put within it pure evil into that ring. That ring is in Atlantis. And Atlantis was supposed to start with that ring being purely good. Once it was tainted, Atlantis was always going to fall. Because the ring holder, if they had bad intentions, it feeds off them. And we saw what happened. These other people that took the ring did a ceremony, and all of them laid on the ground. What were they doing?
Projectile vomiting.
Projectile vomiting, every one of them. And the person who had the ring couldn't keep it in their house because it was killing them. So it has within it 2 different powers and sources. So we're going to finish with something, and Evan doesn't even know about this yet. No. What I'm going to do now is, when we got the ring back, and someone had to go to this person's house and basically threaten to punch them out until they gave the ring back. A woman went there, and I know the woman, I thank her for it, and she wasn't going to leave until the ring was returned, because she actually, the police were going to be approached about this because threats had been made and the police were going to get it back, and she knew that. So she posted it back to us, and there was nothing in there. She said, oh, it must have just fallen out. But we finally got it back. And it had been gone for about a month and a half, and I thought it was gone for good. And then when they got it back, the lady said to me, they want to send it to a psychic. And I thought, fine, I've got no idea to do with this ring anyway. Best one they know. Evan, that's where you're going to start. Now, what we're going to do now, ladies and gentlemen, is I'm going to take you through the notes that were taken on that meeting when the ring was read. And Evan's got about 12 of them. He didn't even know he was doing this. He's playing good cop. Is that what's up to stop there?
Yep, good
Evan,
cop.
good cop?
Yep.
I'm bad cop.
Yep.
Right, what I am is when I saw this piece of paper, I want you to go through what I went through. Here's the enlightenment side, the side that believes in all this sort of stuff. I'm the reptilian side that sees what I get. And if I can't see it, I don't believe it. And we've all got it within us, because I was a teacher, and you've all been conditioned. You've all been to school. Don't you deny it. You've been conditioned not to question, to accept and memorise, and never questioning outside what you've been told. So Evan's now going to read 12 statements, and I'm going to give you my negative approach each time until we get to a couple where I give up. And that's how we went through this. Start with number one, please, mate.
Belong to a hard-working gentleman.
Well, for me, 1 out of 3. Because half the world are male and half the men work hard. The other half don't work at all. So that's 1 out of 3. That could be a lucky guess. That's all I give that one. Next one, mate.
Coldness. Found in coldness money around this ring.
Don't read the money part out, please, mate. That's a big one. Don't read that out. Ignore that part. It's found in coldness. You know where this ring was found? At Hill End. Guess what degrees that's on? 33 degrees. It was found 1.5 metres beneath the surface. What is a ring in Australia 1.5 metres beneath the surface doing there? A gold miner found it. He was going up a hill in the morning. He's got a brand new $10,000 machine. He thought, I'll just take it out on a hill where no one goes because there's no gold up there. And he found that ring, and it took him an hour and a half to dig it out. He went down a metre and he couldn't find it, and he kept going down. So it was found in a cold place. So I'll give him points for that. There's a lot of cold places in Australia. That's 1 out of 3 again. 2 good guesses. Next one.
Study ring. Somebody is studying this ring.
Well, of course we are, but I mean, it's an important ring. That's just a deduction. You know, you could do that. That's rationally, my reptilian mind dismissed that straight away. A pure deduction. Of course someone's studying ring. That's why they took it there. She hasn't got me yet.
Information on where it is from is imprinted in the ring in the symbols.
Well, that's a bit harder. That one made me think a bit longer. I thought, well, there's markings on the symbol that could represent where it's from. It could represent something else. 5 to 1 chance on that one, but it could still be a guess. She's on a roll, just guessing. Should go and do some betting or buy a lottery ticket at this rate. Keep going.
Female connection to the ring.
Well, everyone had told us that. That's 1 and 1. That's just 1 to 1. That's a 50-50 call. It could be male or female, unless there's other sexes and there aren't. Oh, they sort of are now. We'll go do that.
Found in Australia, but ring represents another country.
Yeah, that was a bit better. That's about 10 to 1 because it was found in Australia. She didn't know that. And it doesn't have to represent another country, so that's 4 to 1. Hasn't got big odds yet, but they're good, but they're not big. Keep going.
It is from way back.
Yeah, well, look at it. It's old as bugger. No, you get nothing by that one.
Okay. Egyptian ring is World War II.
No, don't read that. Don't read something there. Egyptian ring, that's a bit better, guys, because Egypt was the custodian of the Atlantean religion. That's a little bit better because it could come from anywhere. So you've got to give that about a 20 to 1. Because we had another psychic who said it's Egyptian, but it's not Egyptian, it's older. And that lady was on the same route. So that one wasn't bad. But first page, I wasn't there. My reptilian mind was still winning. Now it gets tricky. This is where I fell apart. One word at the top, what is it?
Alloy?
That's tricky, guys, because this is why it's special. Because it is an alloy. And because it's an alloy that's not found anywhere on the planet, anywhere. And because she never mentioned science before, or metallurgy, and never mentioned it again, that just popped out of nowhere. That's 100 to 1. The next 3 comments. Now you've got to remember this. When this lady went there, I told her not to mention us, not to say anything about what we're doing, and she knew nothing about us. We didn't go. I didn't want to go, so she can feed off us. What's the next 3 comments, Evan?
Stephen will find it. He will get the answers. Steve, 3 exclamation marks.
Now, what are the chances she picked my name? There are millions of names, male and female. We didn't know it was a male or female until that stage, and it could be from Asia, they could be from India, they could be from anywhere. There are millions of names. She used my name 3 times. And the scary part was she said, I'm going to find the answer to it, and that is not right. Not sure. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that one is the one that pushed me over. 5 minutes to go. Okay, we've got 5 minutes left.
Yep, what the next one?
Last one.
Pipe smoker. Steve, read the next one.
Not like that. Oh God, I'm not putting this in the article. It may well be that I was never going to mention this, that every day I might be smoking something that's slightly illegal. I do it constantly. And she put 3 question marks next to it. It's very important I tell you that. Because Ros rang up and said, what's this pipe smoking about? That's ridiculous. You don't do that. She didn't know it. So how could she have read her mind? She had no idea. She put the 3 question marks in it, not me. One more to go and we're going to have to skip and go to the last part.
Someone in the group, not good intentions. She would try to halve the group, I think, to have the group with her.
And try again.
And try again.
So she told me about the person that took the ring away and is going to try again. By now I've given up. The ring is special. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I've got 5 minutes left, and I'm going to skip the last part because we've got a clue what the answer is. And I'm just going to get Evan to put up the first rock very quickly. Ross's rock 1. We've only got 5 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, the question I've now got is this. I was told that I'm going to find the answer. I have no idea what question to ask. And if I did ask a question, I may well get an answer like 42, and where am I going to go with that? I wouldn't know. That particular rock is the rock that the ring sits on all the time. It wants to sit on that rock. I'm going to tell you the dreaming story of that particular rock because that's a clue for me. It's addicted to that rock. Kano told me the dreaming story about this is the time when the Pleiadians came in. We call them the Goanna. And they came to this planet and they wanted to join us and we wouldn't have them. And the eagle and the crow fought against them for months, for years, and defeated them. The Pleiadians couldn't come, and then one day I think the crow worked out that they should come. And he joined with the Goanna, and they came down, and they wrote their story on that rock. Now, there's part of this story I need to tell you now. Why was the ring found now? Because the story doesn't finish there. Every elder I know of in Australia has told me the same thing about the fact that Pleiadians are coming back now. That's the whole point of this. They are coming back now. The ring was found at this particular time. I know what its job is to do. I've already been told what's going to happen. When they come back here, the human resonance resonates between 7 to about 150 will stay at 200, 300 and stay there forever. And many people on this planet will not be able to cope and they will disappear. The ring is part of the facilitation of bringing that particular thing back again, that resonance that's been lost for so long. The Pleiadians were sung. They were called, we know which group did it. Original people called them. That was the deal when they came. They've always been related to us. And they're coming back. The ring is here now and was found now by this guy that knows nothing about it. He said, I don't know why I went up there. I know why he went up there. The ring called him. And he went up there and he put it above that spot there, anywhere but there, and the ring was taken out and has come back to us. The story is very simply that ring is with us now. It's hidden. I've been told because there's a lot of people who want the ring. We've had offers for it, open-ended offers. We can sell it for millions of dollars, easy. But the people who have that money are the wrong people. Because there is a third ring, ladies and gentlemen. The third ring has been worn and is purely evil. And that one's turned on. This ring, that one there, and the one in France, they're not turned on. And that's why the world behaves like shit. And that's why it's so bad today. The story we're told is very simply, the Pleiadians are coming. They always belong in Australia. This is their place. No other alien group were allowed here bar the Pleiadians. This was out of bounds for them. The rest of them, everyone's been there. Here, it belongs just to them. Not only are they coming back, that's why the ring was found in Australia. And that's why it was found now. And our job is to turn it on so we can turn on the planet. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's a very quick summation of 3 things. We didn't even do the rock. But the moral of the story very simply is, there is a change coming. There's not an original elder we know of in the last 3 years who isn't talking about it. And we're not talking about it in decades. We're talking about it in years or a year in months. They're on their way. They're not far away. Thank you very much.